Hi everyone, welcome to All Fired Up. We're going to start our Who's Your Heroine workshop in just a few minutes. I'm going to give people a little bit of time to get on camera. There we go. So I see several people that are on, but we don't have anybody on yet who is planning on doing the workshop this evening. So I'm going to give it just another minute or two. Welcome to all of you guys who are kind of watching. If you follow along and you like what you see and you would like to order this workshop, you can still do that. Hi Donna, it's good to see you tonight. You're the first of our workshop people to be on right now. Let's see, so I'm going to mark you off. There we go. Anyway, those of you who are just popping on to see what it's like, we do workshops here. Traditionally, we did them in person, but because of the virus, we wanted to be able to reach more people, so we're doing them online right now. We do kids and adult workshops. This is our March workshop, and in honor of Women's History Month, and today being International Women's Day, we are doing the head vases of our hero. Or you can actually do whatever you want with it, because this is yours, you know. So we want it to be something that you would like. But two heroes that we have right here are, we have the infamous Rbg, and we also have Frida. Some people chose some really good ones. Somebody chose Oprah Winfrey. I'm trying to think who else was chosen. I can't really remember, but we had some really good ones. We can do a template up for you for whoever you would like, if you'd like to order this workshop after you see this, and it seems like something that you might want to do. Let's see. So we've got Donna, we've got, yep, we're still waiting around a little bit. Tonight I'm going to do, Donna is doing Wonder Woman. Sorry to out you there, Donna. I think that's a really great one. That'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to do a healthcare worker because, you know, they're my big hero in all of this. I'm going to kind of do it like my son's future mother-in-law. She is a frontline worker, and I just think she's awesome and amazing. So I'm going to do one kind of in her honor. Let's see, who else do we have popping on now? I'm going to give it another minute or two. While you guys are waiting, those of you who are online, you have your kit, and you have, I'm kind of glancing back and forth between the screens, sorry about that. You have your paints in your kit and your paintbrushes in your kit. If you're doing Rbg, you have, since we have slightly different head vases between the one that was done originally and the one that we were able to order in, you know, we're still experiencing, and I'm sure this is the case in a lot of places, we're still experiencing some supply chain issues. So our head vase is a little bit shorter, kind of like me. The good news is there's a lot more head space there, so you can get a nicer sized plant in there than you could in the ones that we were originally thinking that we would be able to get. But anyway, if you have Rbg, you also have a piece of a doily that I've cut for you so that you'll be able to easily make a collar for her. The collar's not going to be out of the doily. We're just using the doily as kind of a printing technique that I'll show you when we get to that point. You've also got a pattern out of tissue paper you're going to want to make sure that you have. Your paper plate, if you don't have a bowl of water, you'll want to get one of those. And probably a pair of scissors, because some of these pieces you will find, depending on the shape of whichever one that you're tracing, you may have it come in two parts so that there will be a part to wrap around the top of the head and then another part to wrap around the bottom, or you may need to cut it apart. So that's some stuff that you may need. All right, let's see. We are looking at about 5 minutes after. We'll just give it another minute or two. I'm seeing we're still missing several people, so we're gonna just give it another minute. Let's see, what else can I talk to you guys about? Oh, I'm gonna hop up and get something. I always forget something. Donna's probably laughing at me right now because she's seen me do this pretty much every time. So we've been doing a lot of different things that you can take home. We do have painting inside the studio, and we're so excited for the weather this week because the weather this week is going to be fabulous. So we'll be able to put out some of our wonderful outside tables if you would like to paint outside. But we also have a lot of take-home stuff. We have an online catalog that you can order pretty much everything, actually everything that's in stock in the studio you can order as a take-home kit. And you can either pick your paints out through the website, or you can pick them out when you get into the store here. Some other fun stuff that we have for the holidays coming up for Easter, we have these adorable little Sunday cups. They're Easter Sunday, that's what we're calling them. And they're in an ice cream sundae cup. They come with little things of pottery paint and a cute little Easter figurine. We've also got these here. We've got some cartons of ceramic eggs. This one is bundled up with acrylic paint. I'm pretty sure that you can ask for pottery paint if you would prefer that, but with the acrylic paint, the nice thing about that is that that's kind of a make and take. You don't have to bring that back to get it fired. I'm still seeing lots of people, but I'm not seeing the people that I was thinking. So I think I'm going to, I guess I can talk to you about the one more thing that I have. Like I was saying earlier, we have adult workshops every month, and we also have kids workshops every month. The kids ones we do a little bit different. We find we have the same kids that come all the time. So we do 3 basic different kinds of workshops with them. So far, we may build on that. We do a series of canvas workshops. Sometimes we'll do a series of clay building workshops. This next one up is bisque techniques that we're going to do with the kids. Hi, Doreen. Good to see you. Let's see. So the kids one's coming up. What we're going to do is we're going to do a series of bowls. Let's see if I can do this without dropping these. All right, I'm going to slide these ladies up front here out of the way. And I'm going to slide my one that I'm going to do. And these are techniques that we did in the store a lot as adult workshops usually. But fun things a little bit different than just our regular take-home kits that you can order. So they'll do 4 bowls, and they're going to do 4 different techniques on it. This is the feather resist. We just did this as an adult workshop. You can actually get it on different pieces for the adult workshop if you'd like to order that. And that video is on our Facebook page. We also have a wax resist one. That's a lot of fun. The one right before, like 2 before this, we did wax resist. Actually, we haven't done wax resist. We did feather resist. This may come up as an adult one. The adults we tend to get a little bit more elaborate with, but there's wax resist. That'll be another one of the techniques. This one, we did mandalas when we first started doing the adult workshops, and we did dot techniques, and we did it as a mandala with the adults. Some of the older kids may want to do mandalas, but I've kind of aged it down a little bit for the demonstration part of it. I'll show the older kids how to do the mandalas, but we'll be doing polka dot technique, and we'll also be doing some mono printing with bubble wrap to make the outside pattern. Weird noises coming from outside the studio. And the final technique for the kids workshops is going to be the marbleizing, and we use shaving cream for this one. A little messy, cleans up well though because it's shaving cream, and a lot of fun. So that's what's coming up for the kids. That series actually starts on Fridays, and it'll run, I believe it's every other week for 4 weeks, or for four bowls worth, 4 workshops. So that's every other week for 8 weeks to make the 4. So I think we're ready to get started on this. I think anybody that is going to come this evening is probably here. Sometimes people, one of the great things about these workshops is that you don't have to do them while I am here talking. You can watch them at your leisure. They get saved to Facebook. They also get saved to our website. So you can come back and do them anytime, which means if you missed this one and you want to do it, you can go ahead and do that. Or any of the other ones that we did, like the feather resist or the paper resist or the mandalas. You can also do those. And the same goes for some of the kids ones. Usually the kids ones sell out. So there may or may not be some last chance ones for the kids workshop series. So we're ready to start with our head vase. If you were in the studio, we would have you taking a sponge and dipping it in the water and wiping the piece off. That's to prime it and to just kind of get the worst of the dust off of it. Since that's not really possible at home, just take a look at it, and if you see anything monstrously huge in there, go ahead and wipe it out. But don't worry about being overly obsessive about it. I usually forget that step, and my stuff always turns out fine. The kiln gets to almost 2,000 degrees, so it's not really an issue. But it does create a nice prime surface, which is why we have you do it when you're in the studio. So we are ready to get started on this. We're going to skip that first step of wiping down the piece, and we're going to get to planning out our design. Some people said that they wanted to do their own thing. That was an option. Hi, Donna. Hi, Doreen. Thank you for talking. I'm reading Doreen's comments. Sorry about that. Thank you for saying hi to me, because that lets me know that you're here. Doreen, give me a thumbs up or some kind of comment if you were able to get your picture bigger. Usually what you need to do is kind of tap on it, and that gives you the whole screen picture of it instead of the little tiny one that you're seeing on whatever your device is. Okay, so we've got our lady here, and we've got our template. If you're doing your own thing, you're going to take your marker that was in your kit. This is just a normal washable marker. And you're going to take it and you're going to draw on your piece whatever you want on your design. That's what I'm going to do in a minute, because I'm going to do, like I said, a healthcare worker, and we didn't do up a template for that. But just to show you how the template works, I drew out the eyes, I measured them out so that if you line them up, I'm actually going to tilt the camera down a little bit so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So you'll get to see my chin and the pottery, which is the important part. So when I did the templates, what I did was I based it off of the eyes on this particular head planter. You're gonna wanna line those eyes up. And if you've got like this one that's got eyeliner that goes all the way out, you may want to, I should have taken the lid off before I did this. You're gonna want to draw that. Basically, the way that this template works is the tissue paper is very thin. So when you take this washable marker and you draw with the tissue, draw on the tissue paper with the marker. I'm going to need those eyebrows, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I think I'm going to actually do the eyes on this one. And you guys, of course, this will turn out a little tighter because you are not holding your vase at a weird angle so that the camera can see it. But when you draw out your lines, you're going to see that it bleeds through. Okay? Now, obviously I did my eye in the wrong place. The good news is this burns off, so I can either adjust that by hand or I can lay the template back down on and make sure I have it positioned better and redo it. But that's the really cool thing about these markers. Because the kiln gets so hot, anything that is not a pottery glaze, as a rule, burns off. There are exceptions to the rule, things like Sharpie marker, because of the chemicals in them, they tend to stain the pottery, but these markers will totally disappear, so it does not matter at all what color you have. Wow, Facebook just gave me a little thing telling me that I'm live, which I already knew, but that was a little bit disconcerting because I was seeing the thing going there. All right, so I'm going to, if I have a template, I'm going to continue tracing my templates. If you have a template for the next section, you'll want to also position that and trace that one too. Let's see, Beth Ann, are you one of the people that has signed up? No, okay. So we're going to go ahead and trace our template, or we're going to go ahead and draw what we would like on there. Actually, since I am putting a mask on my healthcare worker, my nose is not going to show up. But let's see. So, since I don't have a template, which I believe, yeah, there's a mother-daughter team that does not have templates. They're going to do like I'm doing, and they're just going to draw theirs on. Now you can see, like I said, that there are some spots that I realized if I'm wearing my mask correctly, the mask is going to cover the nose. So I have a line here that I don't need. I don't need to worry about that at all. I just want to reiterate that. Don't worry about that at all, because that is going to disappear. Okay? And I've got my lines up here for my eyebrows. Since this is a healthcare worker, I'm going to give her one of those little caps. I think. Anything that I draw and I decide I don't like, I don't have to keep. I can just ignore those lines. Whoops, okay. So I'm noticing that my cap is 2 different heights, so I'm gonna adjust that. Kind of like when your hairdresser's trying to get it the same on both sides. When you are doing this, you are using the same technique that you can do this with other pieces. It's not just this piece that this marker will work with. You can use this or any water-based marker on any piece. So if you like planning out what you're doing, and you think that that's something that you want to keep on doing with your work, then by all means hold on to this marker, and you can do this other times that you, like you can order pieces from take-home kits from the website, and you can use the marker to plan out your design. Another thing the marker is really good for, so, okay, I've got a very basic one on here. I may get a little bit more elaborate when I get painting. Another thing that the marker is really good for is if you look at these ones here, one of the things that made us wish that we could get these in was that they have these nice long necks. If you want to do any lettering on here, like I think on mine when I'm done, I may want to do something about us loving healthcare workers. But you can do your lettering first in marker so that you can kind of plan out where it is, so it's not like in middle school when you did a poster and all the words are beautifully spaced on one side, and then by the time you get to the other side, the letters are all cramped together because you ran out of room. You can plan it out with the marker. If you like it, you can go with it. If you don't like it, then you can just try again and draw draw a little bit more, and it'll be good to go. Trying to decide whether to give my healthcare worker a bun or not. So I'm making sure that I get my bun in the right place. Thinking her bun might show from underneath her cap just a little bit. Okay. I think mine needs a little bit of a neck. Our scrubs. Now, that's really the hardest part on this, is getting your design on there. And then once you do that, it's just a matter of painting. I'm going to paint along with you guys for a bit and maybe give you a little bit of some tips. One other thing that I want to show you is the Rbg collar. So I'm going to do that on the back of mine just because I don't want to keep it, but to show you guys how it works. Let's see, I have same people. So you're going to position this, if you have Rbg, you're going to position this so that it looks like her famous lace collar that she's wearing. And this is bigger than you need it to be. So make sure the spot in the back where it's a little bit too much, see how it's a little bit too much? Make sure that's in the back so that it doesn't show. And you guys will take a little bit of black paint. If you happen to have a sea sponge at home, if you were in the studio, we would give you a little bit of a sea sponge to use for this. But if you don't have one, so if you have one, that's great, you should use it. If you don't have one, you're going to want to take your wider brush, which your wider brush is a little bit wider than my widest brush here. I have some different brushes that I'm working with than you guys do. And you're going to take your wider brush and you're going to dip it in the paint, kind of brush a little bit of paint on there. You can see at the very bottom of the screen how I'm kind of dragging it across. And I've got some on there, but I don't want it super, super soggy. So I might tap a little bit on my plate just to make sure it's not super soggy. Then I'm going to take it, and I'm not going to brush. I'm going to do this on the back so that I can get rid of it later. I'm going to just tap up and down. If I brush, it's going to go underneath, so I don't want to do that. And I would encourage you guys to start on the back too. If this doesn't work, we can wipe it off. But sometimes the black does stain a little bit. So, another way to do it, if that feels like it's just too much for you and you don't mind getting a little messy, is to use your finger as a sponge and just kind of tap it on. I think I actually kind of prefer that because it's not quite so much paint, and it helps me resist that natural urge I have to kind of brush stroke, because I don't want a brush stroke for this. I'm going to make sure I get all of the spots, and then when you lift it away, when you're all done and you lift it away, you're going to get a lace effect like Rbg, like her lace collar. Okay, you see what I'm talking about there? So you'll get that all the way around. I of course didn't get it all the way up here because I wasn't careful with my stencil and I didn't go all the way up there. And down here at the bottom where the stencil has run out, I would also tap it so that I would get a little bit of black around the edge for her collar. So that's how that works. Back to painting it. Let me clean my brush out because I don't really want, I want to use some flesh colors here. So I'm going to paint my skin first. And I think I'm going to use this one right here. When you look at these, let me take her fake plant out of her. You can see, if you look really closely, if you're in person and you look really closely, Mel did this one. She's amazing. Mel went ahead and painted skin all the way around. She even painted it and then painted the hair on top of it. That works out just fine because the hair is a darker color than the skin. Not really sure what Kimmy did. It looks like Kimmy may have done the same, or she may have done just gone around the edge with her hair. I mean, like treated it like two different shapes. So I'm going to treat it like two different shapes just to show you guys what's going on with that. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to just start painting and filling. You want to do 3 coats of the skin so that it turns out nice and solid. And I'm just going to lightly go over the eyebrows so that I can kind of see them for this first coat. Or, so you can see I kind of went over them and I can still see through and see them. Or if it's something pretty complex, I may want to go around it. But that's kind of a personal preference thing. So we're going to go ahead and do one coat the whole thing. In all honesty, if you are watching this at a later time, this is a little different than a lot of the technique workshops that we usually do, because a lot of the technique workshops that we usually do are a technique that is more step by step. This, once you get that template on there, if you're using the template, it's kind of, you can go at your own pace, you can do your own thing. I'm not going to tell you anything earth-shattering that you probably wouldn't already know. So really the template and how to do the lace technique, the trick for doing the lace technique, that's really all there is to it that you may not already know without my help. So this one really is more of a self-paced workshop, is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes it's something that you would have absolutely no idea how to do, and you really need me talking to you for the whole hour that we're working on this. This time, if you get tired of listening to me, I totally understand, and it's really okay. All right, so just a little bit of a difference, and again, that's a personal preference thing. I went over the eyebrow on this side, but I can still see it underneath, and I kind of went around it on this side. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and put all my skin on there. When you're painting with these pottery paints, it doesn't truly matter what order you paint in, but something to bear in mind is that we usually give you an order when you come in. We'll tell you to paint your dark colors last and your lighter colors first. And the reason we tell you that is because if you paint a light color like the skin and then you paint a dark color like the black hair or the dark brown hair of Frida here, over the skin, that is going to show up fine. That brown is going to show up fine. And the skin is not going to show up through the brown because the brown is darker. But if you paint the hair first and get it out a little bit too far from where you want it, and then you paint the skin on top, that hair is going to probably show up underneath. The example that we use a lot of times is the example of stars on a dark night sky. If you paint a dark night sky, if you paint your whole piece blue, like a dark blue, and then you paint the yellow stars on top, those yellow stars are probably not going to show up. And if they do show up, they're going to be kind of a yellow-green if they show up at all. Okay? So that's something to bear in mind. So from here on out, we are really just painting. And I'll keep dropping some hints. One of the hints I would tell you is that the white, the areas that you leave white are going to stay white. They are going to, so you don't have to paint them. So like, if you wanted to paint yours with the eyes open, we paint it, I'm painting mine, and each one of these will be done by a different person. And Mel did hers, and Kim did hers with the eyes closed. And you can have a lot of fun with the eye makeup. I don't know how appropriate that would be on a healthcare worker. I don't think they usually get all dolled up like this to go to work. But you can paint the eyes open on these, or you can paint the eyes closed. We happen to be choosing to paint them open. But if you want to paint them closed, you would just leave this area white, and then you would want to paint the eyes in there. And I'm going to go ahead and draw an eye on real quick just to show you guys in case you do want to do them open. And then since I'm not painting it, it just won't show up. So it seems like the style for these right now is to have them with the eyes closed. But again, it's your piece, so you can do anything you want. So if I were doing the eye open, I would use the shape of the eye that is there. By the way, if you want to paint the eyelashes, you're going to do that very, very last. Okay, and then for this eye, if I wanted it open, you've got the iris, which is the colored part of your eye, and if you look at me through my glasses and past my wrinkles, you're going to see that you can see more of the bottom of that curve of the blue iris than you can see the top of the curve. And that's because of the upper eyelid covering it a little bit. So when you do that, you're going to want to first put the pupil in the middle. Okay. And then when you draw your iris, actually I say first put the pupil in the middle, but it doesn't really matter. You're going to want to draw your iris. And you want to make it almost look like it's hanging from the upper eye, the upper part of the eye. So you can see a little bit more of that curve in there at the bottom than you can at the top. This iris is a little bit too small. It looks like I'm sitting in bright sunlight. So I'm going to make that a little bit wider, a little bit softer. So that's how you would do that. Okay. And actually I'm looking at this, I was drawing upside down and not actually looking at it. You want to make sure that the iris is centered both side to side and up and down within the iris, not within the eyeball, because otherwise it looks kind of crazy and a little bit wonky. All right, so I'm going to go back to painting, but that's just a tip if you wanted to do it, the eyes open. once this is dry, which I've been talking a lot, so actually my first coat in the parts that I've done is almost dry already. Once this is dry, it looks chalky, and you're ready to do your next coat. If you want it to be nice and solid, you want to do 3 coats. Nice long strokes. If you're trying to do your neck and you're having trouble getting that straight, if you hold your brush steady and roll your vase, you'll get your neck nice and straight. Okay? All right, let's see. Who else is, let's see if I've gotten anybody else come on here that might need to see what's going on. Linda? Nope. Okay. Looks like this time we have a lot of people who will be watching later, and that's great. That's one of the really cool things about, or one of the things that I'm finding that I really enjoy about the workshops being online. At first I was super apprehensive because I'm kind of a hot mess when it comes to technology. My son, I think, describes me perfectly. He said, Mom, you can figure anything out. You never do it the way that like it was designed, but you make it work. So it's not that I can't do it, but it's not like I was raised with it either. So I was a little bit apprehensive when we decided to go online at first, but I really missed working and doing my workshops, so I just figured out how to make it work. But one of the cool things that I wasn't expecting that I have found with the workshop, so I've got 1 coat on here and it's nice and chalky in places, so that means I'm ready for my second coat. Okay. One of the things that I found about the workshops that I was not expecting is that you can come whenever is good for you. You know, as adults, we think we have all this time for ourselves, but we really don't. And stuff comes up, and you know, one of the kids needs this, or one of the kids needs attention for that, or you know, practice runs over, or whatever, and you don't have the time that you think you had. So it's been really cool to see that I might only see a couple people on right now, but then when I'm working in the studio the next week, the pieces will come back, and I'll see that a lot more people got to enjoy it than might have gotten to enjoy it in person. One of the things that we used to notice when we had the opportunity to do the workshops in person was the kids' workshops would sell out. They'd be great. But the adults would be really interested and then not able to come. And some of that was because, you know, not everybody can come on the same night. And some of that was because, like I said, I think that we tend to shortchange ourselves a little bit and just didn't get to it. So more people are able to do it with the online format, which is something that I'm really, really grateful for. So I'm doing her 2 coats, or I'm working on my second coat. And let me show you Mel's here right now. Mel, I can tell she did this at the convention, so she probably was in a little bit of a hurry. But if you look at this, you can see on the inside, you can see some lines. It still looks good because she's a very precise painter and she was careful about going in one direction. I'm not as good about that. You can tell that I'm a little bit more haphazard. So 2 coats and seeing a little bit of lines showing, that works out fine. When she does it, looks artistic. When I do it, it looks more like my mind wandered, which is probably true. So I'm gonna go ahead and go all the way to the 3 coats. Kim did 3 coats on this one. These are actually two different flesh tones. So this one is Mel's lighter because she used a lighter flesh tone, but also Kim's is more opaque because she did the 3 coats. Okay, she also gave hers cute little ears. So even if something's not on the template and you decide you want it, you know, go for it. You can add that on. And if you draw it one way and then you feel like you need to go another way for whatever reason, go for that too. And the last thing, the last thing that I can think of right this minute, I always say the last thing, but then I just keep right on talking. I'm painting over my eyebrow on purpose. The second coat will probably cover that marker line. I can still see it a little bit. It works fine for an eyebrow. For something else, it might not, because like something more complex, it might not. If you do manage to go over something to the point where you can't see it, once the pottery paint is dry, you can take this template and lay it back down and retrace it. So if you feel like you lost a detail that you wanted to do and you can't see it well enough to do it, you can always put it on there again. If you're doing somebody specifically inspiring, like Michelle Obama or somebody that says really wonderful, meaty quotes, Maya Angelou, and you've got a favorite quote by that person, I would encourage you to go ahead and look it up and to add it around here. Do it first in marker and then go over it with the very fine brush. I was happy to get those brushes that we were able to include in the kit, because one of the things that we haven't seen hide nor hair of is nice fine brushes that we can send home with people in the kits. And I found some. The brushes that we have for this kit are probably the nicest brushes that we've been able to find to put in our take-home kits. So another thing I'm excited about, I get really excited about that kind of stuff. So I'm being a little bit boring about this, and I'm doing all 3 coats of my skin, and then I'm going to go on to all 3 coats of other stuff. You can bounce around a little bit. It's totally up to you. While you're waiting for one area to dry, you can go ahead and do a different area in a different color. Kind of like when I was a kid and I'd go out and eat with my cousins at my grandmother's house. She always served lima beans, corn, and mashed potatoes. And in our house, we ate the lima beans and the corn separately. Sometimes, if my mom was feeling really wild, she'd mix the lima beans and the corn together, make us some succotash. But they definitely were a separate meal item from the mashed potatoes. My cousins would get the mashed potatoes and they'd build their little well for the gravy or for their butter, usually the butter because we were butter people. And they would mix the carrots, and actually, yes, sometimes there were carrots in there too. They'd mix the veggies, the lima beans and the corn in with the mashed potatoes, like all together. And my sister especially thought that was disgusting. But it's just a different way of eating it, and that's kind of the same thing with the painting. Some people will want to paint all 3 coats of one color and then they'll move on to another color. And some people will want to paint 1 coat of everything and then go on to the next color. The only thing that you don't want to do your 1 coat of is, you'll notice that I'm not doing the eyelashes or the eyebrows or anything dark. I'm going to wait until the end for them, because the dark goes over the light so nicely. but it kind of can smear if you do it too early. Okay, so there's my 2 coats. I'm gonna do my mask a little differently. Remember that I told you guys that the light color, or that the white areas that show through will be, I'm looking for a brush like you guys have. You actually have better brushes than I have here right now. The white, if you don't paint it, will stay white. It will still turn out hard and shiny. I'm gonna use that to my advantage. I'm gonna take a little bit of a nice minty green that we have and a little bit of turquoise. And I want to mimic the folds that are in the masks. I mean, I know this isn't a medical grade one, but it's the same basic idea. I want to mimic those folds that are in the mask because that's what this basic shape is, what the top mask would look like on a healthcare professional. And I want to mimic those. And I'm going to take advantage of what happens when you do one coat and it turns out streaky. So I'm going to dip my brush in the water just because I want to thin it out a little bit. I want this almost like watercolor. There we go. And I'm going to paint a stripe on. And I kind of ran out of paint there. I'm not going to worry about it. I might do a little bit more right here. Now I'm going to do a stripe of the turquoisey color. And I'm going to come back from this side with a little bit of the mint. But I'm letting some white spots show through. I'm letting it be a little bit streaky so that it looks kind of creasy like that mask. And if some spots end up with no paint on them, it will look like a highlight. Okay? Or if some spots end up thinner. So I'm letting that be streaky on purpose because since that's only one coat, those lines are going to show. And I want it to look kind of like a mask. When that dries, I might go back in and do a little bit, do some thinner lines in some areas to make it look a little bit more creasy. But there you have it. So there's her mask. I'm going to go ahead and do her scrub shirt. And I'm going to do that brush strokey thing again with a little bit of water because I want this to turn out a little streakier. Okay, so you do the 3 coats where you want it to be solid, and you do the 1 coat where you want it to be a little bit streakier. Can't do the back of her shirt yet because I need to wipe that off. If you do make a mistake, actually I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys this. It's probably gonna take more water than I actually have here with me at the station, at the art station here. But you can take a clean brush. You can either take a clean sea sponge and blot it off, or you can take a clean brush and brush some water on there. Keep rinsing it. Blot it with your paper towel. Even wet your paper towel, and you can wipe it off. As long as you paint over it, well, you need to get it all off first as best you can. And if there's a little bit of a stain, as long as you paint over it, it's not going to show. Another thing you can do if this ends up being frustrating, or if it's a very small spot that you've messed up, is you can take a normal pencil eraser when it's dry and you can erase it right off. Okay, so that's some ways to handle mistakes. Handling mistakes at home is a little bit harder than in the studio. But basically nothing is permanent until it's fired. So if you don't like something, just wash it off, okay? I've seen people take their entire piece and run it under the water. The thing about doing that is that you need to let it dry before you paint on it again, because the paint will, if the piece is super wet, the paint will adhere differently. So if I were painting 3 coats, that amount of getting it off would be just fine. Since I'm doing 1 coat, I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to more patiently clean it off a little bit later. But all of that to say, it's not a mistake. It's like Bob Ross says, it's a happy accident, and you can just wipe off anything that you truly don't like, or you can make it look like you did it on purpose if you want to channel Bob Ross. So I'm doing the brushy stroke thing here too. I'm kind of liking her color. All right. One more thing to show you with the skin tone. If you want to give somebody rosy cheeks, I'm looking for a little bit of pink. You guys see my paint. I've got my paint, I've got my cheek area here. I'm gonna take my brush, and on my 3rd coat of my skin, while the cheek area is still wet with the paint, a bigger area than I'm going to want to be rosy. I'm going to make sure it's a bigger area than I want rosy is wet. Another thing is, on your 3rd coat, that's the place to make sure your lines are just the way you like them, your edges. And if you press down a little bit away from where you want your edge to be until the edge of the brush touches where you want the edge of that color to be, and then pull the longest stroke you can, that's how you're going to get the tightest, straightest line. So I've got that area, and I want this cheek right here to be rosy. So I've got a red. Actually, it's a pink. Red would be a little bit severe. I do want to use a different red. So I've got that area wet. I've got a little bit of red. I'm going to tap it on in the general shape that I want the cheek to be. I'm going to stand it up and make sure that that's good. Okay, that's kind of severe, like a toddler putting on makeup. So I'm going to clean my brush out, dry my brush off. While it's wet, I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm just going to do a little bit of blending. I'm going to clean my brush off. I'm going to go around the edge of my color, half on the rose and half on the skin color, and just kind of blend it. And I'm going to do it until it's blended and you can barely see it, and you're going to just see a slightly brighter version of that when it's fired. It'll be harder and shinier and a little bit darker. If I want to repeat the process, I'll just tap a little bit more on. Another thing you can do is you can, again, make sure your finger's clean, but if you just kind of tap with your finger like you're putting on makeup, you can see that that blends it also. You just want to make sure that it's blended so that it doesn't look too severe when it's fired. Okay? That's something else you can do to make it more interesting. Go ahead and get the rest of my third coat on. And if I do something like the rosy red cheeks and I don't like them, I can always paint over that. As long as they're not on too thick, one coat should probably do it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try for the rosy cheeks on this side. Brush, tap the color on in kind of a circular shape, maybe brush it a little bit in a circular shape, and then go ahead and tap it with my fingers if I think it needs to be blended a little more. I got the rosy up here a little bit too much. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit more of that on there. So you can see she's got slightly rosy cheeks. I need my third coat across here. Some of these are going to take longer than others. Some people may be just about done, and other people may be like, oh, I've got another hour or two left in it. It depends a little bit on how you usually pace as an artist, and it also depends on how complex your design is. Some of these are a little bit more straightforward than others. So I'm painting, I'm making sure I get my 3 coats on her face. And when that's dry, I'm going to demonstrate the eyebrows and the eyelashes. I didn't get a hair color. Okay. So I can just walk across the studio and grab the colors that I forgot. If you are like me and you forget colors, it's okay to say, hey, you know, I want a little bit of this color, and you could either come back in and get that color, or you could or colors if you're like me. Or you can even just do like a little finishing touch while you're in the studio. You wouldn't be the first person to do that. So, eyebrows and eyelashes. I'm going to show you a couple different things. I'm going to actually show you these two because both of these people handled them in different ways. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was not known for her excessive eye makeup. So Mel opted to not to even do the eyes, just to let the shape of the pottery define her eyes and her eyelashes. Okay, you can do that. You can take a fine brush and follow along, just like a coloring book, follow along the shape of the pottery. You can go totally Frida Kahlo on it and do, this is way more eyelashes than actually were on the pottery. Probably to balance the eyebrow. So, because you can see here, Kim obviously is capable of doing finer lines. All right, so your very last step, actually I'm going to do a little bit of her surgery cap here. I don't know what the term for them is. Does anybody know what they're called? And I'm going to do that like I did the mask. I'm going to just do the one coat. And I'm going to do nice long strokes. I can do one coat and it will look neat as long as I'm careful about making sure those strokes look good together. So to make that work, I'm doing nice long strokes for the surgery cap. And since it's going to appear streaky anyway, I'm using two colors that are kind of close together. The minty green and the turquoise, that is about the same value. Because by using the two colors that are close together, that kind of makes it look intentional that I'm making the lines show. I've got nice long wet strokes for that. And again, I'm letting some white spots show through up in here. I don't know if you guys can see them or not. If I keep this wet, this edge wet, this end edge wet, the lines will not show as much, and I can work my way around to the other side. See what I mean? See how nice that's flowing? I'm going to come around from the front again. I'm going to go along here. Now this brush I'm using right now is a little bit softer than the ones you guys have. So yours are actually, like I said, nicer. They're a lot easier to control. I'll switch to a different one. This is smaller, but in terms of the kind of bristles, you guys have ones that are called Sabeline, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's like a fake sable, but it behaves a lot like sable. I can remember, I don't feel old at all, because I can remember when they were kind of one of the more expensive brushes that you could get, and now they're pretty readily available wholesale if there's not a pandemic going on. Now it's all the people that are healthy are doing more art, which I love. I thought about doing art therapy when I was in school. My roommate in college actually went on, and she is a registered art therapist. But doing art keeps you healthy. So she's got her basics. Just to show you guys a little bit of something I should have gotten. I may take a break in a second and go get myself some eyebrow color. But if you do choose to do your eyes, let me tilt the screen down a little bit so that you can see, and I'm going to move myself up too. This is one of those magic of television moments that's not really very magical. So this is a little bit confusing, I'm not sure if you guys can see this or not. There's a little bit of turquoise right here. I might be a little bit alarmed that I had accidentally painted that color, but I know that that's my marker, so I'm not going to worry about that at all. Some things that you can do with the eyes. Mel went the most basic that you could, and she just painted it solid. Kimmy did the eyeshadow, which may be appropriate for some of your heroines. And one did eyelashes and one did not do eyelashes. Some things I can do are, I could do, if I had chosen with my colors 2 different flesh tones, I could do a little bit of contouring almost in here with the darker flesh tone so that that eye popped a little bit more. If you do that, do just one coat, and it's a good idea to either do it very thinly, like I did on the mask here, so that this underneath color shows through, or to do it while your third coat is wet so that it blends. The eyelashes. You're going to want to use your fine brush, and I actually have a set of the ones that you guys have, and I wish that I had brought it because I don't have one quite that fine. Let me look at these here. You want to use your fine brush for the detail work because you can always add more. It's just harder to get it thinner once you've gotten it thicker. So I'm dipping my brush in the water. I'm dipping it in the black paint, which I think you guys can see. And I'm pulling it out so that, and kind of twisting it. If you've ever used liquid eyeliner, I'm epically bad at that. It's not really my style. But it's the same kind of thing. You don't want to plunge this all the way down so that the ferrule is full of paint, but you do want paint about halfway up your bristles. And your bristles are a little shorter than mine. And you want that paint to really flow. So maybe a little bit of water on your brush. Another thing is our eyelashes are, I'm pointing at my eyelashes and you can't see them. Our eyelashes are thicker out here at the edge than they are on the inside. They're thicker and longer. So you want to start from right here at the outer edge and pull that stroke as long as you can. Okay, and then if you run out here on the inside, just stop. Don't force it. So there's my line. There you go. And you might have been able to see I pulled up. As I was pulling towards the inside, I pulled up so that the line gets finer. Now out here, this outer edge is a little bit thick in some spots. I think that's going to look okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the eyelashes that I want to do. And I have a trimmer, so this is always an exciting thing for me to try to do something this fine. You can brace, anybody though might benefit from bracing their hand like I do against the piece, and even using your other hand to hold it in place and do the eyelash. Now I'm not pressing really hard when I do these eyelashes, and I'm just kind of following the pattern on the thing. I'm not sure if I like those. I may end up taking them off if I don't like them when I'm all finished. I'm going to leave them for now. If I end up thinking that they're too thick, I may take them off. One of the things I can do is I can bring this one out a little bit. That'll help. There we go. And I'm going to carefully try to fill this in so that it's a little bit smoother. You're going to find when you're doing this that the little eyelashes that are carved in are great for giving you a pattern where to put the eyelashes, but they also make it a little bit bumpy on you. So there's more eyelashes on there, but she is a serious worker. She's not a party animal, so I'm probably just going to stop at those couple of ones on the outside. Okay. I see some more people popping on. That's wonderful. You're popping onto a workshop that people have bought ahead of time, but you can get the supplies for this workshop by ordering them from the studio, and then you can follow along with this video from the beginning. As soon as we're done for the evening, I will go ahead and put it on, I'll record it, or I'll put it on Facebook, and it'll be on our Facebook page. And then by this time tomorrow, my boss will probably have it on on our web page. Okay, so I would need to paint my eyebrows there. I'm gonna hop up and get myself a brown for the eyebrows because I think that they will be too dark. So talk amongst yourselves. Not that you really can. I'll be right back. Okay, one more thing before I do my eyebrows. I've got my one coat of my mask and my cap on, and I haven't decided if I want to give her hair or not. I probably will end up giving her a little bit of hair because I think she just looks very bald right now. I know that in truth, probably the cap covers, the surgery cap covers pretty much everything, but I'm going to use a little bit of artistic license here for that. So besides the eyelashes, you're going to want to do a little bit of an eyebrow, and I think I'm going to go ahead and sketch my eyebrow back on because they kind of disappeared. This is what I said about how if it disappears, you can put it back on, and you can use a pattern. The pattern, the template that we have, or you can just freehand it like I'm doing. Okay, so those eyebrows are, let's see. A little bit curvier. two different ways to do the eyebrows. You can either paint them on as one basic shape. Some people's eyebrows are like that. They look like a pretty much a shape, especially if there's somebody that grooms their eyebrows. They'll be more of a very basic shape. Or they may be, you may be able to see the individual parts, okay? Like you can see the individual strokes. Kimmy did each little, she did a lot of strokes in her eyebrows. So I'm gonna demo doing the strokes just because I think that's a little bit harder to guess on your own, because you have to be able to think about what eyebrows are shaped like. For that, you're gonna want the fine brush. And we'll see how I do painting these upside down. If it turns out not to be a Bob Ross happy accident, not to be something that I look like, or that I think I can make look like I did on purpose, then through the magic of television, when this is over, I will just erase it. And I'll either wipe it off or I'll erase it with the pencil eraser, depending on how thick and dark it is. And I'll paint a little bit, I'll paint another coat or two of the flesh over it to cover that. And then I'll try again. So if these are one eyebrow, what I would do, I'm not going to actually do this, is I would get the medium brush from your set and kind of hold it on its side, press down at the nose edge here, press down, and then pull up as I'm pulling along the length of the eyebrow. That way it'll be thicker down here and thinner at this end. But since these are, I'm going to do the hairs, I'm going to load my brush like I did for my eyelashes, kind of thinning it a little bit and dragging it through the paint. I'm going to start here and I'm going to do some strokes this way off of my eyebrow line, or from about the middle of the eyebrow shape if you have a shape in your pattern. And I'm going to go basically the way the hair grows, from the follicle and pull up and out. And I'm just going to keep doing that the whole length of the eyebrow. A little tough to do upside down. Now that I showed you guys what I'm doing, I'm going to turn that over so that it actually looks good when I do it. Up and out, 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 up and out. And I kind of went along the shape of the eyebrow. Now I can leave it like that, or if I want to get really elaborate, most people's eyebrows on the outer edge also go down and in, down and in, down and in. And like I said, if I don't like that eyebrow, which I really don't, I can wash it off and try again. Okay? That's the basic technique for it. Another thing that I'm going to want to do is, I think that I want to do a little bit, I might want to do like a little bit of a shadow right here along one side of the nose. And I could use the brown for that, or I could use a slightly darker flesh tone down along one side. I might want to do a little bit of shading for my nose. I want to hesitate to outline. I don't really want to outline an entire nose. You want to just hint at noses. Like do the little bit of the underneath. My middle schoolers used to say that you didn't want to paint the entire booger hole because then it looks a little bit piggy. Ruth doesn't even have a nose. Her glasses kind of insinuate that there is a nose. So if I decide I want to do a nose, I just want to do little bits of hints of a nose rather than do an entire outlined nose, because that tends to look the most juvenile and the least realistic. It actually looks more realistic to not have a nose than it does to have the whole nose. So, last thing probably I'm going to do for this is I might add a little bit of shadow here and there on mine. I'm going to take the brush that most is closest to your medium brush. Here it is. And for mine, I'm going to do just a little bit of, sorry, I gotta actually look at this. A little bit of outline. I don't really like that. I'm gonna try the thinner brush. There we go, that's much better. So y'all can learn from me here. I think that that's too thick, so I'm gonna do that. And what I'm gonna do for this to turn it into a happy accident, I'm just gonna rinse it off of my brush. I'm gonna do another coat of the lighter turquoise right over it so that it turns out a little bit thinner. And that'll take care of that. My primary concern when I do these workshops is that you guys get the techniques so that yours turn out good. One of the unfortunate side effects of that attitude is usually the stuff that I do during the workshop it's not my best stuff. So I apologize for that, but it's more important to show you guys the techniques and what happens when you do things than it is for mine to be beautiful. Okay, so another thing that I might want to do here is I might want to take a little bit and do just some shadow lines. This is a slightly darker turquoise, so I'm going to do some shadow lines right along here and just stop wherever it is along the edge that I run out of paint. So do some creases. Now this is a darker color, so if I really am going for realism, which I'm only sort of actually doing, I'm probably not going to totally outline the top if I outline the top at all, but I am going to put more outline on the bottom because under most circumstances that's where the shadow would be. Okay, and I'm going to just do a little bit here on the side. Another art here at All Fired Up trick is that if we've got an area where we're not sure if we can make the whole line, we don't even try. We just do like little dashes of paint. And that makes it look like it's on purpose instead of like we just couldn't do the whole line. So that's finished. That'll finish that out, the look of that out. I'll do a little bit more on the collar. I probably will do a little bit under the hat. I think I'm going to give her a bun on the back. I really wish I had brought my set in like you guys have. I'm going to do my hair kind of like Mel did the hair. She just did one coat, and you can actually see exactly where she moved the paintbrush. And that's how she defined the hair, so that it didn't look just like just lumpy. She kind of made it look like she did it on, she just thinned it out. And for her bun, edge here. And I've definitely got some white showing through, and that's fine. So there's my bun at the back. I'm also going to take this brush, and I don't know how it's going to work. It didn't work so well for me up here, but I want a little bit of hair poking out of the back of this hat. So I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to run it sideways. I'm going to start at the bun where I want it thicker anyway. I'm going to press down a little bit. And I'm just going to do a stroke, pulling a stroke towards me with the side of the brush that kind of gets thinner as it gets to the front, so that gives the illusion that there's hair, maybe a little bit of hair poking from under the hat, the cap. Okay, so I'll do that on that side, and I'll do it on this side. Might do it a little bit differently on this side. I don't know about you, but this whole new style of parting your hair in the middle, I'm trying. I have a widow's peak. It does not part in the middle on my head. So there we go. So there's my hair in the back with her little cap. And I could add a little bit of hair in the front if I wanted to. I think I'm just going to stick with the eyebrows and the eyelashes. Do a little bit more of this shadowing with the fine brush. Make sure that I sign my name on the bottom. If I want to do some wording on it, I think that what I would want to do is I would want to do it on the base here. I'm going to do a little bit more of the color first. This is something, remember I messed up right here? Something to consider. I wiped that back with a wet brush and a paper towel to get some of it off. And when I'm going back and I'm painting it again, if it looks a little bit streaky, I just dip the brush in the water and I pull it across again. And that'll help blend and smooth it a little bit. Okay. So I think, believe it or not, she is pretty close to done. One of the things I need to remember is I need to remember to go over this other eyebrow, and I need to remember to do the shadows like I did here on this side, because anything that's done in marker is going to disappear. Okay, so somebody just popped on, and this is somebody watching. How do you bring them back to get fired? Exactly that. So you will order the kit if you would like to do this. Tell us, it'll give you a prompt asking who your heroine is. If you want us to do a template like this, you're going to tell us who that is. We'll look that person up online. We'll do you a template. It can be real or imagined. It can be very specific like Rbg, or it can be more general like I'm doing. You'll tell us all of that. You'll fill it out. We'll fulfill your kit and give you a call when it's ready. And you'll come and pick it up, and then you paint it at your leisure. You can follow along with this video again. When you're finished, you just bring it back to the studio. Some people, like Donna's, I will probably see Donna's tomorrow if I were here, because she's very prompt. Other people like me, it's going to take me another week or two to get around to sitting myself down and finishing this. It doesn't matter. Whenever you can bring it back, you bring it back. And at that point, we will put it in the firing cycle. I'm going to go ahead and tilt this up. We'll put it in the firing cycle, and then we will we'll give you a call. We'll either, right now we're doing call when ready. We started doing that again because of the weather. And we may move back to giving you a pickup date, whichever way it is that we do it when you come in. You bring it in, we will tell you when you bring it back in whether we're calling you or not. And then we'll keep it here, fire it, and either call you or have given you a pickup date, depending on which way we're doing it. I expect we probably will still be doing call when ready for a little while. And then you can come back and get it after that, and it'll be food safe, or in this case, plant safe, and ready to go. So, one more thing about this. You can paint the inside if you want to. Whenever we do like mugs or things that have faces on them with the kids freak me out because they put like brains and stuff in there. You don't have to do that. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. You can, I just had this vision of like the back of the eyes that my one friend is an eye doctor. His son would be doing on me if he were doing this project. It's kind of gross. So you can paint the inside however you would like, or you cannot paint it. And either way, we're gonna dip the whole thing in a clear glaze and it's gonna turn out hard and shiny. But I wanted to show you the tops of these are very nice and neat. Kim painted the top of hers, and you can see she brought the design from the edge right on up. So the edge of it is different depending on where in the design it is. Mel did the same thing, but kind of to a lesser extent. This is a cool trick that you can do for the tops. If you've got a very steady hand, which you guys may have noticed because of the trimmer, I do not. So I have all kinds of tricks for how to do it if you're a real person and not like a perfectionist. And this is one of them. One of the things you can do it, I'm going to tilt it down. Donna, I see your Easter question, and I will answer that in a second. If I don't, please ask it again, because it means I forgot. So you can take a sponge, if you have a sea sponge, or you can take a paintbrush and get that color that you have at the rim on the brush. See, I've got it on the brush. I've actually got a little bit too much of it on the brush. And we're going to use the brush kind of like a stamp or a sponge. And you're going to want to use your bigger brush for this. This is really not that big a brush. You guys have a nicer, bigger brush. And you can kind of just tap the edge. And what happens when you tap the edge? This is especially good if you've done 3 coats along the rim. You can tap the edge and you can see how nice and neat that makes it. By tapping it horizontal, holding the brush horizontal and tapping it, what ends up happening is you get the same amount of rim around all the time. If you're like me and you try to paint it on, you slip this way, you slip that way, you get some of the rim, you don't get some of the rim, and you end up with a much more irregular look. So by doing it that way, by tapping, holding it horizontal to the, I guess perpendicular is the word I'm looking for, not horizontal. If you're holding it this way, you're holding your brush horizontal, that's what I'm thinking. Holding it perpendicular to the rim, you're gonna get a nicer, tidier rim, okay? And if you've done 3 coats on the side here, that's gonna blend beautifully. If you haven't, just kind of take your brush and wet it and just kind of drag it along that edge with a little bit of paint, and that'll blend it, okay? But that'll give you a nicer, neater edge than, for most people, than trying to tap it. It's, you know, it is a personal preference thing. So Donna asked about the Easter plates. She said, on the Easter plates are the designs on the plates. I'm not really sure which ones you're looking at, Donna, because we have several different ones. I do think that I saw that my boss had done up some Easter kits that had a black design on them. If that's what you're talking about, yes, that's already on the plate. What it is it's kind of like a, I'm gonna pop off, we call them coloring book plates. Let me see if there's any over here in the Easter section real quick. So we've got a couple different things happening over here. I'm pretty sure that I saw some cool specialty ones that Kim had designed just for our take-home push that we're kind of doing here. And they are done like this. This is called coloring book. What this actually is it's a regular bisque piece, and this black is on there permanently. An artist has gone along, sometimes it's us or sometimes we've purchased them from the manufacturer this way. And this is black paint, like black pottery paint. And it's been put on there and already fired on, so it's gonna stay on there. So you might see something like this, if that's what you're talking about, or like this. The color is already on, the black is already on there, yes. Then you'll see a lot of our figurines, and a lot of our plates too actually are kind of shaped like this bunny one is. And actually, like, our faces are another example of that, because the eyes shape is already in there, and the eyelashes. And those designs are also part of the plate. It's just done differently. It's a bas relief, so a low relief, and it's just different elevations of the plate create the design. So I hope that answers your question. If you're talking about what I think you're talking about, which are, I can't remember what they're called, but we have some designer plates that come as a kit. Like, I know we had one during the winter that had marshmallows and a hot cocoa mug on it. And those designs were already printed on the plate. And they're printed on the plate using this technique, okay? I think that's all I have for everybody today. So you're gonna finish this out however you want. Don't panic about anything being like not the way you like it. Some things, like, I'm going to continue, I'm gonna make sure I wipe off this black spot on the back here because I don't want to do 3 coats. I'll wipe that off. I could actually, now that it's dry, I could, like I said, take a pencil eraser and erase it on there. Or I can just take a sponge. You can use a kitchen sponge, just be really careful. If you're like me and my kids clean, I wouldn't use the sponge that they use, because there's a decent chance that they wiped out a greasy pan and then didn't clean the sponge, and that there's something in there that will make the paint resist. But you can use a regular sponge as long as you're sure that it's clean and doesn't have any weird chemicals in it, or especially anything weirdly oily. You can use that dipped in clean water to wipe off spots. But you can also use a paper towel, and then if you get like the little crumblies like I was getting, you can just, when it dries, just kind of dust them off. Or you can, like I said, use a pencil eraser. But no mistake is permanent until it's fired. And some mistakes, like I thought I had gone severely overboard with my eyelashes, but I kind of like them. It gives her a little bit of personality. So I think I might keep them. So yeah, don't sweat it. But once you've got all your details on here the way that you want it, and you've got your name or initials on the bottom, you're ready to bring it back in. If there's any point that you're totally stuck on and you're not really sure, like if you need to fix it, well, we want to make it, help you make it right. And it is kind of an adventure. Sometimes things work better at home than other times. So if you've got one of those points where it's not working out well at home, you're welcome to bring it back into the studio and ask our advice, or even, just, hang out for a few minutes and do whatever it is that you're not sure about after you've asked us for a little bit of input on it. Okay? I hope you guys all have a great night, and I can't wait to see you next time. I'm not really even sure what we're doing next time. Usually I know and I kind of advertise it, but we just did a workshop a few weeks ago, so we're kind of, I have a little bit of a rest period for the adult ones, thinking of what we're going to do. I'm considering maybe doing wax resist. Wax resist can be really beautiful. The plate I was going to show you guys is too far away. Wax resist might be neat. Actually, you know what? There's no such thing as too far away. I can do what I want. We're the only ones here in the studio. So I'm going to take you guys for a walk around the studio before I say goodbye. All right. So up here on the top shelf, over my head, do you see that purple one? Let's see how I'm doing with the camera. There we go. That purple plate on the very top has wax resist on it, and that has a pretty detailed pattern. That's not the kind of thing I could do with the kids, but I can do that with you guys. So we may do something like that next. If there's something that you've seen around the studio that you're hoping that we would do, by all means, you know, drop a little like comment on here and let us know, and maybe we'll do it. Before I go, cool things we've gotten in. Look at these. Aren't these adorable? We've got these cute little hangy things for plants. I think they look beautiful, not fired. Ooh, I haven't seen this one. Look at this. That is beautiful. This hanging one here. I kind of want that. More than kind of wanted, actually. I really want that. So anyway, I hope you guys had fun tonight. I hope you see something in the studio that you'd just be dying to get. All of that stuff, if it's in the studio, it either will be or already is on our website, so you can order it and you can paint it at home, or you can come on in and buy one. All right, thanks, and have a great night. Bye-bye.